Welcome, new 100 Yards Football. This morning I have a very NFL special. It's about a young man that changed the face of the NFL and also changed the face of African American football players coming from the SWAC, the MEAC, and other black colleges and playing in the NFL and playing it at its highest level. The gentleman is Lloyd Wales, the NFL's first black scout. So if you like the video today, please comment and share it. And I'm your host, Vincent Turner. I surely appreciate it. And special thanks to Mr. Logan Landers for making it happen for me this morning. Lloyd Wales. People are saying, Vincent, who is Lloyd Wales? Well, a lot of people don't understand that he was the first black NFL scout in the early 60s for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he was responsible for finding players from the black small colleges, the HBCUs. But before I get to telling the story of Mr. Lloyd Wales, I want to tell you the definition of what a scout is. A scout is a soldier or a person sent out ahead of their main force so as to gather information about the enemy's position, strength, or movements. That's what Lloyd Wales was back in the 60s when Lamar Hunt took a chance, went against all the forces from the NFL and the upstart league AFL when he hired Mr. Lloyd Wales. Mr. Wales nicknamed the Judge. As you see on the screen, a very good-looking guy. Back then, I referred to him as the Chico DeBarge, the Billy D. Williams, and the Kevin Lockhart of the NFL. But think about his journey, man, becoming the first black scout. So let's be honest. The National Football League really wasn't keen on, in the early 60s, of getting players from the HBCUs. The AFL was an upstart league, and Lamar Hunt took a chance and knew there was talent in those small schools: Tennessee State, Grambling, Alcorn, Bishop, North Carolina Central, Morgan State, Maryland Eastern Shore. But think about Lloyd Wales' journey. Going back to the definition of a scout, he was sent out as a main force. Back during the time in the 60s, you had a lot of social unrest. And think about his scouting prowess where you had to go to states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, the Maryland Eastern Shore. But you was talking about a young man that had a skill set that was energetic. Listen to the key word right there, energetic. Had a positive vibe about him. Knew the view of what a pro football player could be and was an asset. It was Lloyd Wales. And to be honest, he changed the face of the NFL, man, bringing a black player into the game. And it all came fruition when the Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl IV. Reason I say that? I was 9 years old at the time, but think about it. 1969, you had O.J. Simpson that was the number one overall pick. You had Roman Gabriel, who was the NFL Player of the Year. You had Bud Grant, who was the Coach of the Year. You had Kevin Hill, who was the Rookie of the Year. And you had Joe Green, who's the Rookie Defensive Player of the Year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what sticks out to me, when the Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl IV, you think about how the eruption of the black athlete took to another ascending, especially in the South. And think about those players that was on that team. And think about the game itself. The Chiefs came in as a 13-point underdog to the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings led by Joe Cap. And everybody and their mama picked Minnesota to win that football game. And let's put it out there. People didn't have confidence in the black athlete. The Chiefs had all them black players on that squad. And they still couldn't understand and respect that team based on the fact that beat Broadway Joe and the New York Jets in New York in the first round of the playoffs 13-6. A New York Jets team that was coming off a Super Bowl the previous year. As I mentioned, Joe Namath, Don Maynard, Emerson Boozer, Matt Snell, Paul Crane. And then they beat their nemesis, the Oakland Raiders, with Dale LaMonica, Hewart Dixon, Fred Biletnikoff, Ben Davison. And still, the nation didn't want to give the Kansas City Chiefs respect. And we know why. And you was talking about a team throughout the playoffs, a Kansas City Chiefs defense. They only allowed 20 points in the playoffs, gave up 2 rushing touchdowns, and held the Vikings to 61 yards rushing. But we know why. But it was something special. It was a new beginning. And Mr. Wells became the civil rights pioneer of the National Football League. And with that Kansas City Chiefs team having the majority of their African American as starters, the rest is history. And then you got to think about this. Not only Mr. Wells was making a stand in the 60s, but he stood toe by toe with one of the greatest athletes that has represented our time. His name was Cassius Clay. Changed his name to Muhammad Ali. That was Lloyd Wells' best friend. And think about the impacts they were making in the 60s, brothers and sisters. But getting back to Mr. Wells and him really responsible for that Super Bowl championship in Kansas City. See, I don't want to hear about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce just winning their Super Bowl a couple years ago. Kansas City Chiefs and what Mr. Lamar Hunt did, they changed the whole face of the National Football League. In the face of the HBCUs and black players playing at this high level. See, when you want to give homage, and I think this goes out to all the black colleges out there, the HBCUs, you really need to give homage to Lloyd Wells and that Super Bowl championship team of the Kansas City Chiefs. And you want to know why? Because Mr. Wells was responsible for Buck Buchanan, Grambling, Emmett Thomas Bishop, Willie Lanier, Morgan State, Jimmy Marcellus, Proud, Tennessee State, Jim Kearney, Prairie View, Otis Taylor, Prairie View, Frank Pitts, Southern, Nolan Smith, Tennessee State, Gloucester Richardson, Jackson State. I get emotional because out of all the favorite Super Bowl teams in my lifetime, and I'll be 62 July 17th, and I've been following this great game of the NFL, pro football, and college football since 1966. The Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl IV team is my favorite team of all time. And you look at it. 3 of those players I just mentioned made the Hall of Fame. And all I'm responsible by this young man on the screen, Lloyd Wells. But most of all, what I take away from that, and let me throw Robert Holmes in there from Southern University. Mr. Wells had an opportunity and was responsible for all those players playing on their team and really changing the face of the National Football League. But the moment I take away, and when I think about Lloyd Wells, his foundation, bringing all these great players to the Kansas City Chiefs in the National Football League, I take away Super Bowl IV, Otis Taylor. 46-yard touchdown, reception, breaking that tackle on the sideline and high-stepping it in the end zone. That's a special moment. Special moment for the HBCUs. Special moment in National Football League history. Special moment in Vincent Turner following this game history. And everybody who says they support the HBCUs, what you need to do today after you watch this video is go back and watch that performance of the Kansas City Chiefs and that great touchdown reception of Otis Taylor. And then think about Lloyd Wales, the first NFL black scout, who is responsible for that lovely, lovely foundation of all these players playing in the National Football League. I'm always really honored and grateful that I'm still living where I can honor players, coaches, and scouts that made an impact in this great game as it goes forward. Just think about a couple of weeks ago, they had the 2022 NFL draft, and you had Trayvon Walker out of Georgia that went number 1. You had Derek Stingley, they went number 3. You had Ahmad Sauce Gardner that went the first round. Chris Avellay, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. And when I was watching that draft and seeing all those players getting drafted in the first round, and the looks and the smiles, the hugs from all their family, all I thought about was Lloyd Wales and that Super Bowl team of the Kansas City Chiefs. They had 13 players from HBCUs on their team. 1970, January 11th. And all I can think about, that was a real tough time in a period of history in this country, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. But the pride. I seen them gentlemen 2 weeks ago getting drafted in the first round, and then thinking about Mr. Lloyd Wales out of Houston, Texas, graduate of Texas Southern, former Marine Sergeant in the Marines. All I thought about was him, how he set the foundation, all them young men getting drafted. And Kayvon Thibodeau. Let me throw him in there. Special times, man. This guy had a big foundation in bringing a black college football player, especially out of the South, out of the HBCUs, into the National Football League. And the journeys through the little small towns of Sunflower, Mississippi, Drew, Mississippi, Ripley, Tennessee, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Stuttgart, Arkansas, Moultrie, Georgia, small towns in Florida, Ocala. Man, that's special. Mr. Lloyd Wales, the Chico DeBarge, the Kevin Lockhart, and the Billy D. Williams from the National Football League as a scout. Special thanks to my producer, Mr. Logan Landers, for making it happen today. My final words about Lloyd Wales. You know I got to put it down. The great Sly in the Family Stone. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer. That makes no difference what group I am, man. I'm everyday people. Lloyd Wales was nothing but everyday people back in the 60s as the first black NFL scout with the Kansas City Chiefs. Super Bowl IV. I don't have to say no more. And if you watch this video today, to all the schools out there, the HBCUs, the MEACs, what we need to do, we need to get some votes up and get Otis Taylor into the Hall of Fame. Otis Taylor in the Hall of Fame. Like the video, please comment and share. It's been a pleasure and it's been an honor. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Be blessed.